get this thing going here. Today's presentation is titled The Path from GIS Manager to GIS Leader. We have we're very proud to bring in Adam Carnow. Adam works with ESRI. He's a community evangelist, global market leader in GIS. He's done keynote speaker, leader in technology, evangelist, and he just helps organizations get the most out of their GIS investment. He works closely with Esri teams and partners. He is also a certified urban planner, AICP, and he is also a GISP. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Adam. And we really appreciate you being here today and really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Brian. And thanks very much to Eureka Texas for the opportunity to support your wonderful group and community. So I really appreciate the opportunity to do the webinar today. So as Brian mentioned, this presentation is the path from GIS Manager to GIS Leader. This is a brand new presentation of mine. You guys are the first to really see this, so I'll be interested in the feedback here. And I work a lot with GIS customers and particularly with GIS managers, and I really see that there's a difference between a manager and a leader, and I really see that in order for an organization to get the most out of their investment in GIS, we need our managers to become strong leaders in their organization, because getting technology adoption to happen in an organization is not an easy task, whether it's GIS or any other technology. And so I work diligently to try to identify some strategies based on real world examples of organizations that are successful in doing this. And so that's my mission today, is to really get people that are out there that are working on GIS in an organization to understand some of these people or business or culture strategies so that they can, again, use the technology deeper in their organization and realize a better return on investment. And the reason we need this is because most organizations aren't getting the full utilization of GIS in their organization. And this goes back, the first time I really ran across this was in this article from 2011. And there was this quote in here that really kind of woke me up. And it said that generally people outside of GIS think of GIS just as maps or a graphic product or the younger brother of CAD. And while that's 9 years old at this point, it is still true in many organizations. And then in 2015, there was this article, and it mentioned that GIS is often seen as maps or a visual graphics product, and the more advanced capabilities are ignored because they remain unknown to key departments and decision makers. That was 5 years ago, but I still think that that's quite often the case in a lot of organizations. As we get closer today, this one from 2018, so this was a survey of CIOs, and they were asking them about the hurdles to realizing the value of GIS in their organization. And this survey showed that lack of awareness among users and policymakers remains the biggest challenge for the industry, with over 38% listing it as a primary hurdle. So I'm sure that some of these ring true to most of you here, in that your organization doesn't truly understand the value that GIS can bring. And so one of the ways to get around that is to shift the conversation. We live as GIS professionals, we live in a world of spatial technology. Most of our colleagues do not. So we need to shift the conversation from technology to capabilities. So if you want to define the word capability, it's the power or ability to do something. And most executives and elected officials and people in charge of different facets of an organization, a lot of them don't really care about technology. And they use technology, but they care deeply about capabilities and adding or expanding capabilities inside the organization. So the way that we can get their attention about GIS is to really switch the conversation away from technology and more to the capabilities. We talk to executives and elected officials and managers about helping their staff gain a new capability to make them more efficient, et cetera. That will really usually get them focused on ways that they can help you make that happen. And so the capability that GIS enables in an organization is location intelligence. there's multiple different definitions of location intelligence, and there's other capabilities maybe that people talk about GIS being able to provide. But I like the term location intelligence. It's analogous to business intelligence. It's easy for people to understand. If people have heard of BI, you could state that location intelligence is really just BI, but with spatial data. So what I'd like to do now is just to show a short, about 2-minute video that Esri produced with Fast Company for executives, and it's going to explain what is location intelligence and put it into a certain context. So I'll go ahead and run that video now.
What is location intelligence, and how is it changing the way we solve the problems of the future? Location intelligence uses spatial information to empower understanding, insight, decision-making, and prediction. It has applications everywhere, from retail site selection and solving traffic bottlenecks to maintaining and repairing vital infrastructure. Location-based insights are used in many ways. They can create safer, more efficient supply chains. Growers can trace spoiled crops back to the field from which they were picked. Better understanding the trajectory of hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods can help evacuate residents, reduce damage, and save lives, making cities and citizens more resilient to the increasing severity of storms. Modeling wildfire risks empowers local authorities to clear vegetation and coordinate their response to fires. In farming, precision agriculture measures soil moisture and crop health to deliver water and fertilizer only where needed. Optimizing production costs and maximizing crop yields is necessary to feed another 2 billion people by 2050. Location-intelligent organizations allow all participants to create, manage, and share information, making them smarter, more productive, and more efficient. 2/3 of business executives already use location intelligence to gain a competitive edge. More than half use it to create new market opportunities. For this reason, 97% of companies believe location intelligence is crucial to their success. Most say they plan to invest in location intelligence technologies. We've only just begun to explore the potential of combining spatial information with prediction. Just as we would have once been hard-pressed to imagine all the uses for smartphones, we're still discovering how location intelligence, combined with emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, will uncover new insights and provide a map of the future. Esri, the science of where.
Okay, so you can see the language that was used to explain location intelligence to corporate executives, and that's what we need to seize on. And you saw in the video that they said the majority of organizations are willing to invest in it, and 97% of them believe that it's a critical part to achieving their mission. So they're already sold on it, and we just need to jump on that bandwagon. And then now that we're talking about location intelligence, I'd like to direct everybody to this report that came out in August of last year. Really an amazing report. I heartily suggest everybody visit that URL and download this report. So this report is from Esri Canada. They work with a company called IDC that does surveying of organizations. And so this report looked at 200 organizations across Canada in every industry, and they figured out which ones were using GIS to empower a location intelligence capability. They then graded them on how effective they were in reaching return on investment in that, with the use of that technology to embolden that capability. Then they classified them on how successful they were, and then after that, they distilled out some best practices. So this report, Winning with Location Intelligence, the Essential Practices, outlines several best practices that organizations can use to be more effective by implementing this location intelligence capability. And what's interesting is that they distilled these best practices down into 5 different categories of what they call the 5 pillars of location intelligence. So from left to right here, these best practices were either in strategy, organization, technology and data, culture, or literacy. What's interesting about this is you look at the one in the center, technology and data, and I would venture to guess that most of us on the call spend about 100% of our time on technology and data. So what this report is doing is opening our eyes that if you're going to be successful with location intelligence in an organization, you need to spread your time across all 5 of these. Just working on technology and data does not equate to the ultimate return on investment related to GIS and location intelligence. So what I'd like to do is dive a little bit into each one of these 5 and provide some resources and some explanations of how you can maybe start to spend some of your time on the rest of these. Before I do, I'd like to just throw these 5 numbers up there. You'll see them highlighted throughout the presentation. So 64, 76, 80, 84, and 84. These are 5 key numbers that I'm going to wrap into this presentation, one for each of the 5 pillars of location intelligence, just to get some attention on the need to work on these areas. So let's start with the first one, which is strategy, there on the left. Why is the strategy important? Well, this article just came out in September of last year from McKinsey & Company, and this was a survey of organizations that were successful in applying data and analytics to their work. And what it found was that the creation of a strategy ranks as the #1 challenge to and reason for a company's success with data and analytics. So if a company is successful with data analytics, the #1 reason they are successful is because they have a strategy. If a company is not successful and they're having challenges in implementing data and tech and analytics, the reason the #1 challenge to that is because they lack a strategy. So the importance of a strategy cannot be downplayed whatsoever. And I know that this is true for most organizations with GIS. And you might say, oh, okay, well, if I'm going to do a GIS strategy from an organization, I'm going to get kickback from executives on why we need one. Well, it just so happens that Matt Lewin, who's at Esri Canada, wrote this great article on LinkedIn about how to sell an executive on the need for a geospatial strategy. He came up with these 5 reasons to unlock new sources of value, to strengthen a digital strategy, to enrich the customer experience, to establish a shared data foundation, and because the IT strategy missed it. So I'll definitely direct you to that article, and you can read that. It's really, really, really helpful. So here's the first of my 5 numbers. My research shows, and I've surveyed over 700 GIS folks across the US, that 64% of organizations that use GIS do not have and maintain a GIS strategic plan. So that's a big hurdle to you realizing the value, the full value of your GIS, and to really affecting your organization at the utmost. So what is a geospatial strategy? It's a business-oriented plan that defines how an organization will use GIS to achieve its goals. Pretty simple, but a business-oriented plan, not a technology-oriented plan. An effective geospatial strategy, it connects the business needs with the right people, processes, and technology to help you overcome challenges and improve results. So if we want to show that in another way, it's actually pretty simple. You start by looking at the goals of your business. Look at the goals of your organization. You can look at your strategic plan, the initiatives, et cetera. Most organizations have goals that are documented somewhere in a strategic plan or somewhere. And then they've got challenges to meeting those goals. So once we know the goals, we can then identify the challenges. So talk to the folks in your organization that are trying to meet these goals and understand their challenges. Then what we do is simply propose GIS solutions that help mitigate those challenges so that the organization can achieve the goal. If we do that, we get a business value of GIS. So what's the common word in all 4 circles there? Business. So this is all about the business. It's not about the technology. We start business first. We keep business in the front of our minds and all the time. And we use the technology to help the business meet its goals. It's not the opposite. I see sometimes people see a new technology, get all excited about it, and then run around the organization trying to find a problem to solve. It's the other way around. Find the challenges your business has to meeting its goals, provide GIS solutions that help mitigate those challenges, and then you realize that business value of GIS. So let's see what this looks like in the real world. So I recently heard about this story from Bonneville County, Idaho. It's really incredible. If you want to know where that is, it's in the southeast part of Idaho. And they first, a couple years ago, had a single GIS professional working there. And that GIS professional knew that the Bonneville County landscape is susceptible to wildfires. And so she worked at implementing some GIS solutions around wildfire response. And so sure enough, not long after those solutions were in place, they actually experienced some wildfires. And they were able to use the GIS-based solutions to respond to them. And this made them much more responsive, because in the past, they had done this in a manual paper-based way, and it was not very efficient. So they were able to really respond much, much better to that fire season. And lo and behold, people realized the value of GIS, and that GIS single professional went from 1 to 5. They then did some more work and implementing some more solutions, and sure enough, they got 3 more. So in a couple of years, they went from 1 GIS professional to 8. And I think we all understand how hard it is to get full-time employees added to an organization. But it shows that if you provide solutions that provide business value, people at the top can make things happen. So how do we develop and execute a geospatial strategy? Esri's been working with organizations across the globe for decades on this, and we've come up with a best practice for a geospatial strategy, and it basically consists of 4 different steps. Number 1, you understand your business, understand again those goals and the challenges. Number 2, you plan the solutions that are going to mitigate those challenges. We figure out the people, the processes, and the technology involved. We then act to implement that technology, and then we revisit the understand part over and over again. So this is a cycle. It's not a one-time thing. We're constantly monitoring the needs of the organization. We're planning our solutions, and then we're implementing them appropriately. If you want some more information on this, you can go to this URL here, download a short document that will help you start to wrap your head around these phases of the geospatial strategy, and to get more information on how you can put one together for your organization. All right, so the next of the 5 pillars is organization. And organization covers a lot of things. You see 3 bullets there, but I'm going to focus on that second bullet there, and that's governance. And I'm not talking about hardware, software governance, or data governance. I'm talking about the professional organizational governance, the structure and the way that GIS functions within an organization. So here's my second of those 5 numbers. My research shows that 76% of organizations that use GIS do not have formal governance in place. And this is another hurdle and challenge to realizing the full investment in your GIS. Your GIS really cannot function internally to its and externally to its ultimate capacity and need if it does not have strong governance. And if you're looking for some sources of resources relating to governance, I would direct you again to Matt Lewin, who wrote the article I showed you earlier about convincing executives for the need of a geospatial strategy. Matt's done a lot of writing on this. And again, you're going to get the slides here that are all hyperlinked to this information. So he's written a multiple series of blog posts on the Esri Canada website about governance and organization of GIS. There's also a video on YouTube of him giving a presentation at the Esri User Conference from 2018. So definitely learn about governance, and if you don't have governance, I would suggest you start working on implementing some governance, and these give you some best practice kind of resources around that. Next in our 3 or 5 pillars of location intelligence is the third one, which is technology and data, and again, that's where most folks spend their time. The one thing I do want to focus on here is our best practices. Too often I hear people ignoring best practices related to technology and data, and best practices are named best practices for a reason. They try to iron out and learn from all the lessons that other people have run into, and all the failures that people and issues and problems people have had, and try to distill it down into the best way to run a GIS in an organization. And I do know that research shows that if you implement best practices, you will have fewer tech support calls, you will be more efficient, your GIS will be much more operationally sound. So I heartily suggest that you learn about the best practices around GIS and IT and implement them as much as possible. And if you look at the best practices that Esri has published, we have a document called Architecting the ArcGIS Platform Best Practices. And again, my research shows that 80% of the people that I've spoken to, they have not read this document. So please, if you're an Esri customer, definitely go to this URL, download this document, read it. It's not too long and it's not overly complicated and technically confusing. It's pretty direct. Please be aware that this is updated 3 times a year, so you need to make sure you get the latest version, which I believe is June 2019. But this deals with more than just technology. It deals with people, data, and the process. So a really good document to start to get your head wrapped around. And again, if you do implement these best practices, you will see better performance from your GIS. And the fourth one here is culture. Culture is a big part of whether an organization is successful, and it's hard to change culture. So we all have to deal with this, but in terms of the 5 pillars of location intelligence, we're particularly talking about the culture, about innovation, collaboration, and then promoting and providing awareness to what GIS can truly do for the colleagues and the rest of your organization. And changing culture and people's ways and getting them to adopt technology, you can really talk about that. The term there is change management. And I'm not talking about software change management, I'm talking about organizational change management. And so going back to my numbers at the beginning, my research shows that 84% of organizations that use GIS do not have and maintain a change management plan. And that plan can really be highly, highly effective. Research shows that if you implement change management, it can triple the success of your technology adoption. So what we mean by change management in this mode is it's the discipline that guides how we prepare, equip, and support individuals to successfully adopt change in order to drive organizational success and outcomes. So you should have, your organization should have a change management program. And again, not always around technology, but maybe just getting the people to understand as the organization changes its culture, its ways of working, getting people on board and accepting that. And this is one of the biggest challenges, again, of a successful GIS implementation wrapped around this people problem. So if you're looking for some resources on change management, Esri actually has 2 change management consultants who have been certified as professional change management consultants, Michael Green and Dave Schneider, and they've published quite a bit of articles and blog posts available to you out there, as well as video and presentation around preparing for change. So definitely, if your organization, put your ears to the ground and find out if anybody's talking about organizational change management in your organization, and if so, get on board and try to get your GIS group to be a part of that, because it will really help with successful technology adoption in your organization. And some of the focus areas are effective sponsorship. You definitely need executive sponsorship. It helps you get people to understand the value of this technology and that they should start to use it. It requires continuous communication. A lot of times people will create maybe a new app and then drop it out there and then never talk to anybody about it. So people need to have their hands held through the technology adoption process, continually communicate with them how they're using the app, its effectiveness, etc. You do need to get ready for some resistance. So you need some proactive ways to manage that resistance to the technology adoption. And then always, a lot of this is just training. So helping your workforce develop and get trained up on the latest techniques and apps, et cetera, will really help them embrace the technology a lot more. And regarding the sponsorship, having sponsors is critical to having a successful GIS in your organization. But a lot of, over 50% of sponsors don't understand their role. So sponsors are just as likely to create resistance to change as employees. So number one factor for successful change is an active and visible sponsor that understands the value of the technology and will support it and use it themselves and help with the change management around that technology adoption. Okay, so the last of the 5 pillars of location intelligence is literacy, and this surrounds patterns of use and business capabilities. But again, I think that in order to have a workforce that's literate in using technology, that means having training to help them understand how to use the technology efficiently. And so my research shows, this is the last of my 5 numbers, that 84% of organizations that use GIS do not have and maintain a workforce development plan. And what a workforce development plan basically is it's a training plan. It's a pathway that says, based on the roles and responsibilities of the people in our organization that are using GIS, these are the classes they need in this order to do their job effectively and get the most out of the technology. And then because this stuff is changing so fast, everybody that uses GIS in an organization should be getting at least some sort of training every year. And I know it's hard to get training budgeted. And one of the problems is because a lot of times you don't have a workforce development plan. A lot of times GIS manager will ask their superior for several $1,000s for GIS training, and that'll be the total of the request, and they'll easily deny that. But if you actually have a document that says, based on our work loads and flows and the roles and responsibilities of our workers, here's the technology training that they need around GIS in this order in order to be efficient. Higher ups are much more likely to fund that if they see a focused plan with showing why they need it. So I would heartily suggest that if you're an Esri customer, reach out to your account team. You do have access to a Esri training consultant, and they can work with you to prepare a workforce development plan at no additional cost. And we also do have some learning plans available on our website around certain technologies. I know it's hard to navigate all of our classes, so we put together some standard learning plans that you can use as a starting point. But I would also, again, we really suggest you reach out to get in touch with that training consultant to get your own workforce development plan put together. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is start to wrap this up by talking about this. Now, this is a journey, a path from GIS Manager to Leader, and taking an organization that has GIS to fully implementing, using it to power a location intelligence capability, and to embed that capability across all the staff is not going to happen overnight. So it needs a plan, and it needs focusing on those 5 pillars of location intelligence. And I think that part of getting an organization to understand the value of GIS is maybe talking about the branding of it. I think too often we have, as GIS professionals, the image of map makers, and being a map maker is a very highly skilled profession and a very valuable skill, and maps are very, very valuable to an organization. But if you have an enterprise GIS, you can do a whole lot more than make maps. And so quite often, I think sometimes we're hampered by our titles of our jobs in our departments by using that term GIS, because people hear GIS and think MAP. So in order to get out of that image of just being a map maker, part of imbuing the organization with this location intelligence capability, I think would require a rebrand. So what I want to do is show you some examples of real organizations that are rebranding their departments and their roles in their departments. So these are some job titles that exist in the real world around GIS folks. So here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am in the water department, we used to have a GIS manager, and that title went to content delivery manager. Also here in Charlotte, we have a GIS manager whose title is decision analytics manager. I really like that title. And then I've seen this one up in Canada, someone on LinkedIn changed their title from GIS to someone who works with location intelligence, public engagement, and data visualization. I think those are very strong capabilities that should be highlighted. USNGA has a geospatial intelligence manager. Pennsylvania Turnpike has a geoanalytics information officer. Many folks have heard of a GIO, or a geographic information officer. Got a great video with Walgreens, and they have a director of enterprise location intelligence. Personally, that's one of my favorites. Government agency in South Australia, they have a business and location intelligence manager. And then just up the road here for me in Cabarrus County, North Carolina, they recently rebranded their GIS manager as a business and location innovative services supervisor. I really, really like that one as well. So think about this as you move forward with your career and your plan to expand GIS in your organization, to see if maybe some new titles like this could help people understand your value a little bit better. And where I'm going with this is that I think there's a hole in most organizations, organizationally, on the org chart around GIS, because if you're going to realize the full value of GIS, you really need to have someone full-time working on it strategically as a business enterprise system, and strategically working at the organization to make sure they're getting the most value out of it. So not dealing with the technology, but full-time pushing the organization forward by working on those 5 pillars of location intelligence and expanding the capability internally. So if you look at an organization that's led by some sort of chief executive officer, over the years, as IT, the importance and the power and the value of it has expanded, they've expanded their org chart to deal with that. So at first there was like chief technology officers in an organization, but then as things started to change, you'll see some organizations that not only have a chief technology officer, they now have a chief innovation officer. And then you'll see that some have added a chief data officer. And then they've even gone to a chief analytics officer. So my point is, what's the next step for GIS is, if we can get an organization, especially people at the top, to understand the value of GIS in an organization, why shouldn't there be a chief geospatial officer or a GIO, Geographic Information Officer? I think that if we can get the executives to understand the value of this technology and connect the capability of location intelligence to that and work strategically on the organization, that if they do, they would be willing to create this position, and then we can see a place for our GIS managers to grow into. And that's when an organization will really see the full value of GIS. And there are some organizations that have done that, and I showed some of those titles on the previous slide. But what I'd like to do is show you some examples of real world people out there doing great jobs every day. These are GIS professionals. These are your peers that are out there. I've done this research trying to find them across the country within the US. I have some in Canada listed on here as well. But here are GIS folks who have moved up. So we have some CIOs, we have some CTOs, some chief data officers. We've got directors of Office of IT and Innovation. We've got directors of Enterprise Systems, of IT Services, IT Directors, Innovation Officers, etc. Deputy CIOs, Senior Applications Manager Tim Nolan, who was mentioned earlier, right there in Texas. Justin Cure, also right there in Texas, and Tessa Alberg up at the top in Grapevine. Tricia Brush in Kentucky is a GIS director. Then we have some other ones over here, Deputy Director of Data Management and GIS, Assistant CIO, GIOs, etc. So some of your peers are already doing this, and they're moving up in the organization above and beyond GIS, but also into this realm of IT executives. And then here's 2 others. This one has an article about it. So Nick O'Day is now the Chief Data Officer at the City of Johns Creek, Georgia. He was the GIS manager, so he got this nice press when that happened. And then Tracy McKee in Charleston, South Carolina. She used to be in GIS, and now she's the new Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Charleston, South Carolina. So this pathway is available to you, and it is happening these days. And I suggest you seek to have a career path and try to do the same. But in addition to having those titles and moving up the org chart, I also found 4 instances where we have GIS professionals, GIS managers who are not reporting to the IT director or to another department director, but all are reporting to executives directly. So the executives have realized the value of GIS, and maybe they haven't created this GIO position, but they've realigned GIS to report directly to them because it is so important. So Oak Hill, West Virginia, that's the case. In Morgantown, West Virginia, that's the case. In Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, they report directly to a COO. And in Skagit County, Washington, they report to a central division manager. So they are a peer to the IT director, who also reports to that central services division manager. So even if you can't get a new position created, there are ways that if you can get an executive to understand the value of GIS, maybe they can realign the existing position to be directly reporting to them, because then you know you're connected directly to the nerve center of the organization, and you are providing powerful support for the organization and focusing on the initiatives right from the top. So let's realize that being an effective professional and getting an organization to utilize the maximum amount of its GIS is really aligning it around capability of location intelligence and not on just the technology, and that we can't spend 100% of our time working in technology and data. There are 4 other pillars here that you've got to put some horsepower behind and get things moving in those areas if you're really going to realize the full potential of GIS in your organization. So definitely, download again those documents I talked about and reach out to your peers and others to help you move in these other directions. So there's a huge opportunity in front of us. The technology is great. It's advancing rapidly. It's getting easier and easier to use and to deploy. So definitely seizing this opportunity. It can help you professionally. It can help your organization, and it can really make a big difference both within our organizations and within the community. So if you want to think about this in the big concept here, it's, there's a difference between having a job and building a career. If you want to have a job and get paid for that job, that's fine. But if you want to build a career, you follow what I've talked about in this organization. If you work on these things and focus the GIS on accomplishing the business goals, you will build a career within an organization. So think about which one of those you want to do and what it takes to do that. And then when you're gone from this job, when you move on, whether you retire or move to another organization, how are you going to be remembered in that organization? What are they going to remember you after you're gone? I don't know about you, but I want people to remember me as an agent of change and someone who helped, improve the organization and help get the work done and help achieve the business goals and help the community be a better place. And I think if we all do that, our organizations and our communities will be a whole lot better off. So that's all I have. Thanks again to ERISA Texas, the opportunity to present the speaker series. Here's my contact information. I'm very active on GeoNet, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and I love to connect and hear from GIS professionals out there every day and the work you're doing and help you any way I can. With that, I'll turn it back over to Brian.
Okay. Well, Adam, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Fantastic presentation. I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure our listening audience did as well. Ollie and Dylan, you guys can unmute yourself and add in if you need to. We got a few questions for you, Adam.
Sure.
I guess the first one is, does Esri, does the SRI have a learning plan that will help people become a GIS leader?
No, that's a great question. So thanks very much for that question. But I'm working on it. We're a software company. Our training should be focused on how to use the software. But we do realize that, based on the information I just shared, that people need help in the non-software part of the business. So I am working to try to put some of that training together. But I will talk about a couple of other resources that are available out there. So if you want some resources on the people, business, culture side of this, I would suggest the ERISA GIS Leadership Academy. So that's a great 5-day program. I haven't been through it myself, but everybody I know that's been through it says it's very valuable. It's a 5-day event. And they move them. I think there's 3 of them around the country this year. So definitely check into the GIS Leadership Academy. I'll also steer you to GISsuccess.com, which is run by Toby Soto. Toby does a great job with helping GIS managers and users become leaders. And Tim Nolan is a part of that, as well as Wade Cluse, they were both listed on my slide earlier as people who have moved up in their organization. So I'll steer you to that. And then I do some leadership training as part of the user conference. If you come to the Esri International User Conference, I produce a GIS Managers Open Summit. It's an all-day affair that helps you become a leader there. I do some GIS leadership workshops around the country as well. So no formal training, but we're working on it.
Very nice. Yeah, I've actually attended the ULA, the ERISA Leadership Academy. It's very well done, and it's definitely worth the experience. And we've actually had Tim and Toby on here to present with the speaker series, and I think those talks, Ollie, if I'm right, there should be on our YouTube channel if you guys want to check them out.
Yes.
Or at least
Tim's
one
is
of them
not,
is.
because that was our mess up day, but Toby's presentation should be there.
We won't bring that up to Tim again, but yeah. Well, let me ask you this here. Let's see. Oh, we've got some people in the chat window. They posted some of the ULA's dates. If you guys, there's what, Minneapolis, Portland. There's one coming up in St. Petersburg, Florida. You can check that out on URISA International page. But if someone was interested, Adam, in developing, let's say, you had your percentages up there earlier, and let's say they just don't have anything. Would you recommend first starting with a 5-year strategic plan? What would be your first recommendation?
Well, I think that 5 years is too long, actually. Think about how much technology has changed in the last 5 years. I mean, trying to figure out what technology we're going to be using in 5 years is almost impossible. So I would make my GIS strategic plan. A lot of people think, oh, you need to hire someone and spend a lot of money. It's to be this big, thick document. A lot of times those sit on the shelves. You want it to be very short and concise and applicable to your daily work and easily revisable. I think if you start with the document that I showed with the link to it on maximizing the impact and starting out with the Esri, the understand, plan, act, and revisit, very simple parts of it. And again, if you reach out to your Esri account team, they can help you get more information about it, but start with that document. I think, again, these strategic plans are all on the business side. It's not the technology. So, basically understanding your organization, understanding the challenges they have, understanding how the technology can best be utilized within your organization, and then following some best practices to make sure that that technology is deployed in the best manner possible is all it really takes. I could provide you guys that you could share with everybody. I have a great plan that was shared with me again from Matt Lewin in Esri Canada for the city of Toronto. It's a very well done document. It's very short. It's graphically pleasing. Like, you'll look at this thing and think, holy smokes, I can't believe a city produced such a gorgeous document. What's also interesting in the document, it's not very long, but it only has the word GIS in there once. And that revolves around their GIS Day event. So they've totally, again, rebranded, and they're focusing on the capability of location intelligence. And this plan shows where they want to go, where they are now, and how they want to close that gap. And that's really all a plan is about. And so I think you should start there. And there's also on the new URISA online community, someone started a discussion group, I think it was Wendy Nelson, where people can post strategic plans, examples. And I did post the Toronto one up there. So if you're not on that URISA online community, then definitely check into that.
Very
Did that
nice.
answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, no, you definitely did, and more. We'll make sure we get a copy of that and put it up on the URISA Texas website, because that would be real interesting. I'm curious if they do if a lot of them that you've seen do a SWOT analysis. I know that was really popular there for a while, but yeah,
that's always very popular. That's very effective, and I know that I think Toby and Tim and Wade and those guys have done some stuff on that as well, and they have some other techniques on there. I think if all we do is focus on the business and focus on what the people at the top believe are important and help them accomplish those things using the technology in a sustainable manner and a best practice manner, that's all you do, then you'll be successful. Keeping it simple and focused is really what you need to do.
Well, Jordan has a question, and I'll read it off here because I'm not sure. Adam, what's your GIS, in quotes, hot take?
Hot take, huh? My hot take is that GIS is an incredibly powerful technology that can really make a difference in our world, in our communities, in our organizations. And it's just up to us to get people to understand it so that they'll actually use it to do that. And so I think my hot take is everybody in your organization needs your help and wants your help. They just don't know it because they don't know how you can help them accomplish their mission. And so if all we do is get our colleagues to understand the true value and potential of GIS in the organization and to be friendly and accepting to trying it out, I think we can change the world and make it a better place. I really honestly think that, and everybody here at Esri does. You hear Jack talk about it. That's why we're in business. And I think that we can be incredibly valuable to our communities. And then I think we're kind of this quiet people that sit and are very sharp and do our stuff, and we're very passionate about it. But a lot of people don't know what we can do and what we are doing, and can take better advantage of it.
Oh, very nice. Ollie, do you have anything else to add here, or make sure she's unmuted? But I want to thank everybody for attending today. I think at the I've unmuted Ollie here, but I think at our milestone here we had 104 people in attendance, and so hopefully, it was very well received, and I noticed a lot of colleagues and friends across Texas and outside. So, but we definitely, Adam, I just want to thank you again for a great presentation. Getting a lot of thank yous in the chat window. Everybody, we have recorded this and we will be posting this to our YouTube channel afterwards. If for some reason you couldn't get us a message or question to send Adam, then let us know. info@usaTexas.org, and we'll push that on, pass that on to Adam and see if we can get that taken care of for you. But again, great presentation, and we really appreciate it. We're going to finish a little bit early, but Ollie, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just I want to echo what you were saying. Just thank you. That was an awesome presentation. Got a lot of good information in there. I'm actually doing a talk next week, so I'll be able to use some of this because I think it's really important, especially with the rebranding of the title. This is really awesome. Thank you so much.
You're certainly welcome. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, everybody, please stay tuned for our next speaker series next month. Ollie, which one do we have coming up?
We have Tim Nolan next month again. So, and we've got more information that will be coming out shortly. So keep an eye on your email, and we will be posting it on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and all the places that we post. So
absolutely,
that will be coming out soon.
And for those of you all who were on here, USA Texas is putting together 3 workshops. They're FME workshops to help you automate your daily workflows, something you do on a consistent basis. We can automate it. You don't have to have programming experience to do it, but go ahead and check out our website. We've got them next week, 3 workshops. If you want to register and come visit with us, be happy to have you. So, Adam, we're going to go ahead and let you go, and we sure do appreciate it once again.
Thanks a lot. Anytime.
Okay. You all have a good rest of your day.